When trouble between the Catholic and Protestant communities in Northern Ireland flared into an armed conflict, both the KORBR and the KOSB did regular tours of duty in the province.
You'd suddenly be called out to confront this riotous mob, and it was rather frightening, actually. You never looked up because you're frightened of what you saw.
In those days, you had a wee shield that only covered that much, and you were trying to, you know, dodge. And of course, they were wise because they threw the bricks at people's shins. You were always worried that the platoon would get overrun by the crowd and, you know, dragged away to wherever.
They were sophisticated terrorists. Their aim in life, whatever their political aim was to kill you. And so you had quite a lot of respect for this lot.
The two mobile call signs will be the 1-0 call signs with Sergeant Gordon, and he will provide the outer cover and protection for the foot patrols.
The general pattern of the operations would be checkpoints on roads, a lot of work from helicopters, a fair bit of rural searches, and all this being done in support of the police.
Full battle order, particularly in the rural environment. One group moving up a street, another on the ground watching you, and you would move. And the patrol could be as long as 10 hours. Your rifle up at the ready all the time, constantly watching for snipers, which were a big problem.
When it was shooting, I mean, you were jumping from cover to cover, you were running and darting, you were never just walking around on the move, you know, without being covered by someone else.
Basically, we were chasing shadows for a long time, you know. These people, you know, if they were coming out to have a go, they would have one shot, disappear. And then even if you maybe think you'd shot someone, it was clear. There was nothing there, you know, even the step had been brushed and swept by the time you got there. They were really good at it.
When you're there on the ground and you're straight from Sandhurst, it's, have I got that, have I got this, did I hear that on the radio? Are we in exactly the right place? Where is Private so-and-so who should be behind that hedge, but I'm not seen for 2 minutes?
I can still remember getting to the gate, loading my weapon and feeling that kind of pinch in my heart and then going for it. An eye-opener for a young lad, you know, that grown men would want to kill you, or women spitting in your face, you know, which happened a few times. And for an 18-year-old kid, it kind of toughens you up a bit.
Walking up the street, you know, passing everybody, try to be nice, try to talk to people, but you don't know if that was the guy that threw the bottle at you the day before, or try to, you know, threw the blast bomb over the wall, or even shot at you the day before. You know, you just don't know who your enemy is. That's the hard part.
We had a few losses in Northern Ireland, and they ranged from being shot to being blown up, or being burnt alive with incendiaries down in Crossmaglen. I'm glad that we got out of there, to be perfectly honest. We were patrolling against British citizens. That's what I didn't like about it.
Morale was very important, but for security reasons, soldiers were compelled to stay in their barracks, even when off duty.
The one thing that they missed, I was second in command at the time, and one thing, the message came through to me is, they said, there's no pub, we can't get to a pub. And I'd heard of a plastic pub which had been used in a British exhibition. We bought it and transported it to Ballykinler, south of Belfast there, and set it up, this plastic pub, in the barracks. Apparently it was a howling success.
When Saddam Hussein's armies invaded Kuwait, the British Army became part of an Allied response, and the KOSB and the KORBR were deployed to fight in the desert.
Iraq was pretty much an unknown quantity. So there was a lot of unknown factors, and there was a high expectation of many casualties. We were told that the Iraqi army would not be adverse to using gas. They've used it on the Kurds before, where over 5,000 Kurds had been killed. So there was this very real threat, and I've never seen so many people take such interest in what we call nuclear, biological and chemical warfare, because it's nasty, it's stifling. You know, having a rubber gas mask on is not your idea of wanting to conduct any sort of operations. Commanding officer at the time being very upfront and saying you have to make preparations, you know, for your family in case the worst happens. And I don't think at any stage had it been put to soldiers quite as starkly, not even in Northern Ireland. We'd lost our way in the middle of this minefield, and it don't get out the vehicles. And there was this smell, and I can only relate the smell to what I recently had to deal with during the foot and mouth and the burning the cattle. It was like, it was burning flesh, so you could make no bones about it. And as we were coming out the minefield, we could see the Iraqi bunker positions, which had been obviously bombed by the air raid, and there was parts of people there, arms, legs. A degree of humanity kicks in, and you realise that, you know, there but for the grace of God, you know, it could have been you if you had strayed the wrong way in the minefield. And just coming back, and the band striking up, Piper striking up, and the look in my wife's face, and really just seeing the kids was just tremendous.
As the government decided to reduce the size of the British Army, the then Defence Minister, Jeff Hoon, announced that the KORBR and the KOSB would amalgamate with other regiments into larger units.
That chap Hoon said, nothing will change. The golden thread of tradition will pass on to the new regiment. I can't use that round object word. Balderdash, rubbish. The golden thread for the KOSB is torn in twain. There's nothing left.
They're about to throw away something that's very important. I think that people like to identify with a regiment that had been in existence for more than 300 years.
We've always had a small army, but it's been a damn good army. Continental armies have been bigger. They've never really won a war yet.
And perhaps cynically, I'm inclined to think that it's a step. It's the final step to a corps of infantry, and it might be something to do with the European army.
The big regiments have not worked in England in that they have shrunk from 7 battalions down to 2, and I have an awful feeling that the same thing will happen in Scotland, because you have lost the identity. You have lost the link between a regiment and its area, its family, its friends, where it recruits from. And you can't replace that.
The KOSB will cease to exist at a drumhead service held at Holyrood Palace in Edinburgh, where they were raised 300 years ago. It will be an emotional day.
I will just be very sad when the King's Own Scottish Borderers are not the King's Own Scottish Borderers. I will go to the drumhead service on the 23rd of June to remember where we were raised in 1689 and all the years that the regiment has been in existence.
The KORBR will also formally cease at a service this summer, and many veterans will find it hard to contain their emotions.
There will be several hundred people there, and there will not be a dry eye when the flag comes down for the last time. And when our colours march off, we'll all be weeping.
My thoughts will be with those people that we've lost. It might be chest out and that's my regiment and there it marches into history. But yeah, it'll be a sad day.
I think there'll be a sense of betrayal, a sense of a unique thing that has in many ways supported this country through very great periods of trial, has just been discarded. I get emotional about it.
Please don't take away the border boys. You'll need them by and by. Remember the border boys, rearing or do or die. Remember what Sir Harry Lauder said. We're next to the Navy and the sea. So if you take away the border boys, where will Cumbria be?
Unit prayed for those who suffered so terribly here.